Well, let's jump to the story we have from Timcast.com. More than 1 million voters, 1 million, leave Democrats and switch to GOP. Democrats urge Biden to change course to avoid being demolished in the midterms. Okay. With 134 days into the midterm elections, no outcome is guaranteed, but the new data is a fresh warning to Democrats. Now, many people are arguing that this is Democrats joining the GOP to sabotage the primaries. Perhaps. I think that's probably a tiny fraction of it. I think people don't think like that. The average person wakes up, they go to their job at the bodega or at the mall or the restaurant, or they're a carpenter or tradesman, and they're not sitting there thinking like, how can I sabotage the rival political party? They're just like, why is my gas so expensive?
Right.
I'm voting Republican this time. And that's it. What do you think? Why do you think people are quitting the party?
I think, driving up here, I was thinking about Youngkin and what happened with him in Virginia. And I think people, that vote transcended politics. I think parents through COVID had seen for the first time the education system, the disarray of that, the introduction of CRT to young kids, and sex ed to 6, 7, 8-year-olds, and they were just done, and their values just had it. So I think you can only drink so much Coca-Cola before you get you just past it and over it. I mean, I was woke about 7 years ago, and you have to break through beyond that pre-existing belief system, and you do when you finally see enough of it and you go, this is nonsense. I'm being fed propaganda, not news, and this ideological extremism, postmodern progressive, whatever you want to call it, this intersectionality is so out there that, I said before, I didn't leave the left left me. And where did it leave me? In kind of limbo, going, well, am I, because I come from England, we don't have to affiliate. We don't have to, I'm not a registered anything in England. But in America, it's, it's obviously a very different system. And I just think people have had it. They've just had enough.
No, go on.
No, please.
I was going to say, it's funny that, Elon Musk posted that meme of the left moving further and further left.
And that was Colin Wright's meme, by the way.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Shout out to Colin.
I've said this. You've said it. Elon Musk is saying it. I just don't understand. At what point will the Democrats, will the liberals on the left realize there is a recurring pattern here where a whole bunch of people are like, the left is leaving me behind, and they're like, so what? Okay. Seamus is exactly where he's always been as a conservative.
Pretty much. I've moved a bit over the years on different things. I've actually yeah. I mean, I used to be more libertarian, but yeah, pretty much.
Now, the point is,
socially for sure.
If with that Colin Wright meme posted by Elon, if we as like former left liberals are now being left behind, politically we are closer to conservatives than the modern left. What do they think is going to happen in terms of the vote? They'll cease to exist. They're lopping themselves off from political discourse.
I think what we're seeing here, and it's interesting that you mentioned Youngkin and those parents, because I think what they've done, possibly without realizing it, or maybe without caring about it, is they've turned parents, just writ large, they've turned parents into a voting bloc. And I don't think they've realized how unbelievably damaging this is going to be to them.
It's insane.
Because they've done it, and they've turned them all against them, and they've told them, you're terrorists, go away, we don't want to hear what you have to say. We have your kids now.
And we see as well, I think, from the alphabet, the identity politics eventually devours itself. And that's what we're seeing with the LGBTQ, it goes on and on and on, and they're fighting amongst themselves. And it's that, I don't know, the liberal elites, though, they're just going to keep living in their ivory towers and making money and pretending and purporting to be fighting for, the working man and disimpoverished neighborhoods. And when really it's quite the opposite that's going on. That's what I see. We live in the upside downs with a lot of moral hypocrisy seems to be rife at the moment.
There's Bill Kristol, right? He's a neocon. And he tweeted out something about how the Supreme Court is extreme or radicalized for overturning Roe v. Wade, when he actually wrote something like 25 years ago, an article saying Roe must go. So how is it that the neocons of 8 years ago all of a sudden are just agreeing with Democrats? Here's an example. The Lincoln Project. We are going to restore the party of Lincoln from, after Donald Trump. Donald Trump loses and they go, we're basically Democrats. We're just here to rag on Republicans. Come on. So these people who claim to be Republicans, claim to support these values, are now all of a sudden supporting Democratic policy and values. Like Jennifer Rubin's a great example. Conservative writer. And all of a sudden she's like, yay, Stacey Abrams, yay, Democrats. And it's like, do you have principles or are you just grifting?
Realistically, Democrat and Republican are just jackets. Anyone, just because you're wearing a coat with a name on it, a word on it, doesn't mean that it's going to make you think a different way. Doesn't matter what you call yourself.
But
those people are those people.
They are thinking a different way.
Bill Kristol was always looking for. I mean, he was a proponent of the war in Iraq. He loved the invasion and conquest.
And now Democrats have they have a higher approval rating for George W. Bush than Republicans do for some reason. But you have my point is, these people are exposing themselves as never having actually believed in anything. Like, Roe is bad. It's like, bro, you wrote the article on why Roe must go. And now all of a sudden you're saying it's bad? Yeah, it's because you didn't like Trump. You didn't want to be a part of that, so you joined the Democrats. That's it. Now your ideology was always immaterial, irrelevant. You were just claiming to support things for the sake of making money. That's it. When you have that, you have the Democrats looking to young people and saying, we got to get their vote. What do? And they say, well, these people are in favor of a lot of really weird things, like they're castrating kids. And the Democrats are like, will we get the vote? And they're like, yeah, but you're probably going to lose all the rest of them. They're like, let's go for it. Now you have Loudoun County parents electing Youngkin because they're like, I'm out. Whatever this is nuts. I don't want to be involved in it. I think people are switching parties for that reason. And I think the narrative of it's to sabotage Republicans is nonsense. I think some do, but I think it's a minority, tiny fraction.
I agree with that. And Loudoun County, I saw some of those school board hearings. They were, talk about nuts. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was I think it was one guy who was entering and he got tackled to the ground and handcuffed and he was made out to be some kind of, neo-Nazi, alt-right, crazy person. Then you look into the story, you find out that his daughter was allegedly raped in the restroom by...
I think it was proven that she was, right?
Right, maybe, yeah. And that's the kind of thing where I think parents are looking at that and going, you know what, no, enough. The state shouldn't, or the government shouldn't step in and tell a parent how to raise their kid, and our kids should be safe, and that's values. Yeah. And I think the values of America. I have conversations with both sides and in the middle, and there just seems to be more reasonable civil discourse with people on the right.
So we had this event in New York just on Saturday. It was fun. The Festival of Ideas put on by Minds.com, and that is the idea. Can we bring together, different factions, different people to come and talk about these issues? And the answer is no, you can't. And I think the reason no, you can't is because the moral framework of the two factions has become so at odds with each other that you can bring people together, but they cannot. Well, I should say this. I think the left can't understand the right, but the right can understand the left. So I'll give you the example of the challenge. We had a panel. It was James O'Keefe, Tulsi Gabbard, Ben Burgess of Jacobin. He's a socialist writer. I think he's a socialist. I don't want to, but he writes for a socialist magazine. And I were on this panel. Before the show, like literally minutes, James confronts Ben Burgess about a video edit saying that he cut out this important piece and challenged Ben on it. And Ben Burgess's response was, I don't know his response at the time. When we were on stage, we were supposed to be talking about media manipulation, and I think Ben perfectly exemplified the divide. James O'Keefe said, in this video, X happened, and you omitted it. Ben said, unions are important and good, and if you don't support unions, you don't support free speech. Therefore, James O'Keefe exposing a union was harmful to them, and that means what he was doing was bad. And then my response was, that has nothing to do with truth or journalism. You've started your argument from the point of from an ideological point. Unions are good. James targeted unions. James is bad. That's not journalism. Mm-hmm. The question is James telling the truth? That was the issue. Is he being deceptive or not? And the answer is no, you're just mad because he did something damaging to your ideological cause. This is a writer for a major publication. I think Jacobin's fairly good. They defend free speech. I can respect that. But that exemplified the problem perfectly. The corporate press, the woke, like AOC said, it doesn't matter if you're factually correct. It matters if you're morally correct. Mm-hmm. That's the difference between us and them.
And that's called ad hominem. It's a fallacy. It's a diplomatic fallacy. If you attack someone's character, that's called, like, if you make a comment like, well, you wear green and everyone knows that's the ugliest color, which is
right. Attack the argument, not the character. Yeah.
But this is not that. This is James O'Keefe said, thing happened, thing is true. Ben said, but thing is bad for unions and unions are good, therefore you are bad. And that's not ad hominem. that is like, or your work is bad. Your journalism is deceptive and wrong because it's harming unions, which are important for the people.
Yeah, he attacked his work ethic.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Well,
The
that's
point
not
is, you're either saying a dog jumps out a window, and a journalist will say, dog jumped out a window. And an ideologue will say, the dog was thrown out the window by an evil person. Because that's the moral good, to condemn those who raised the dog in a system of oppression that resulted in him jumping out the window in fear.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that didn't happen. The dog just jumped. I don't know.
There's a point you made earlier I kind of want to seize on for a moment here. You mentioned that conservatives know more about how the left thinks than the left knows about how the right thinks. And this is a point we've made a number of times. I think this has also been verified by different studies where they polled people on the left and asked them to describe conservative opinions, asked people on the right to do the same thing. One thing we don't talk about as much is the fact that left-wing people also don't understand the way that people who they consider to be their allies think. They don't understand the way the people who they claim to represent think. They literally do not take the time to figure out what anyone else in the world believes. They think they have all the world's problems solved with their ideology. So whenever it comes to women or the black community or any other group, the Islamic community for whom they claim to advocate, they're constantly pushing for ideas that members of that group generally don't like. So I've said this before. On the BLM website, there was language about abolishing the nuclear family, right? And when you look at BLM and when you look at how black and brown have been included on the pride flag to include Black Lives Matter, well, when it comes to the question of homosexuality, according to polling data, the black community is more conservative than the white community, right? What about women? Well, they seem to think that for women, liberation means going into the workplace, having an OnlyFans, stripping, selling nude pictures of yourself. This is not how most women think. And then when it comes to Islam, they want to be able to lump Islam into a category with these other groups as if Islamic religious fundamentalists have the same goals or interests as these other groups. My point is they make zero effort to understand what anyone else wants or what anyone else thinks. It's not just conservatives. They're complete solipsists.
There was in the UK, I can't remember the neighborhood or the area, the city. There was an LGBT curriculum in a classroom in a Muslim neighborhood. So all of the religious Muslims came out protesting. And you actually had this video where it's like a gay guy saying like, I'm doing this for you. And they're like, we don't like you and we don't like what you're doing. But these leftists have created this narrative where they're the saviors of all these different groups. There was one thing that happened where some TV show depicted a female Muslim character who was gay.
Yep.
And the Muslim community was in uproar, they were in an uproar, like this is offensive to us. It's like, did you think that going against their strong religious conservative Muslim values would make them like you?
Yeah, well, exactly. And so I think part of the reason they would do that is to kind of like groom the Western Muslim community into adopting more of their values. I remember when that happened, I did a cartoon poking fun at the idea, and there were actually a number of Muslim people, because it was funny, the whole idea behind the cartoon was like the left just seeing groups of people as caricatures, and so there were some jokes in there about like Islam and what the left's doing, but the feedback I got from Muslim people is that they really liked it, even though it was poking some fun. They're like poking fun at the ideas of the stereotypes because they're so sick and tired of the left claiming that they're like their avatar or pawn, and represent them somehow. Like the Muslim community is like in any way emblematic of what the left's goals are.
Go ahead.
We talked about a little bit before the show, Greg. I was mentioning to you that I think they call it the left, even people that call themselves leftists, because they want to project this idea that they're half of the conversation, when in fact it's a very small group of, without making too many generalizations, drugged out people that are on like Adderall and other amphetamines since they were 12 or whatever. I don't know how many of them there are, but a lot of people are on those like suicide watch type people. And they have a microphone. So everyone else, they're inside this like echo chamber house of fun mirrors, and they see around and they see all these other deranged people. And then they think if they can somehow help the deranged people, then they're helping the entire system. But they're just like scratching their own backs, and everyone else can see inside. It's a one-way system. We can all see them doing it. At least most people that are aware of the media and the manipulation stuff that are watching around that stuff can tell the transgender, like cutting up a kid's genitals when they're 9 is probably not very good for the kid.
Have you seen all of these performative outrage videos over Roe v. Wade?
No, I haven't seen any.
So there's women like screaming, like, ah, and they're like punching pillows and things like that. They're all very obviously performative for 2 reasons. They've set up their camera, pressed record, stood back, and then started screaming. So they planned it. It wasn't a true display of emotion. It was just, there's one video where you see one woman like banging a pillow on the ground, and it starts with a brief, her looking at the camera and then going. Someone's moving the camera and filming her, and then she stops and then pauses for a second looking at the camera. Very clearly an edited performance. People see that and say, oh, if I'm to fit in, I need to be angry about this. They don't know why they're angry. They were just told to be. Billy Joe Armstrong goes on stage and he's like, I'm renouncing my citizenship because people are so stupid. And he's probably not gonna. I would be very surprised if he literally renounced his citizenship. It's a complicated process. I doubt he's going to go to the consulate and be like, yes, here's my signature, my official form of renunciation, and I would like to have a meeting with the American consulate officer to swear my... Like, it's not something you just do. So I really doubt he's going to go back, he's going to smoke pot and go like, what was I going to do again? But when he goes on stage and says this, everyone's like, yeah, I'm angry too. I don't know why, but the guy on stage said to be. They see all the videos. These young women see the videos getting likes, so they make more videos like this to get attention. They don't actually know what they're protesting. They don't even know what Roe v. Wade did. They don't know why it was overturned. So they just say, it's the Handmaid's Tale. Get your Bible out of my body. And it's like they didn't overturn this on any religious grounds at all.
Well, part of what I think
care.
is and that's also because this is another example of the left not knowing how anyone else thinks, not knowing how to frame an issue. They think that this is just a matter of like some small minority of religious fundamentalists who want to ban abortion, and that there are no reasons outside of divine revelation to want to oppose abortion. But also, they think that I think some of them really seem to think that abortion has been criminalized nationwide because of this. This is part of what's so funny about. Billy Joe Armstrong, saying that he's going to renounce his citizenship. Many blue states are still going to have abortion laws which are more lenient than the ones in Europe.
Mm-hmm. And in the UK particularly.
Yeah, so he's going to be moving to a country that probably has stricter abortion laws than the state he's fleeing.
And it has a king. Well, it has a queen.
I know. That's insane. He could move to Colorado where there's 0 restrictions. Instead, the UK has like a de facto abortion because the women can be like, my mental health is affected, and they'll give them the abortion. But you still need a process, whereas in Colorado, you don't. And he's complaining. It's like, dude, the states are like how big is the UK? Like comparable to what state?
Ooh, that's a good question. I wouldn't hazard a guess, but quite small compared to many of the states here.
The United States and all of Europe are comparable in size.
Right.
So the UK, living there would be akin to him being like, I'm moving to Colorado. It's like a different state. It's crazy that Europe has no unified abortion law, similar to how the United States doesn't. And there's actually, I think, Finland, I think it's banned outright. I could be wrong. It's like heavily restricted or something.
Gotta look that up.
I think most states, most countries in Europe, it's like 12 weeks.
Yeah, at least.
And they're decently restricted. In the United States, up until the overturning of Roe, the U.S. was way more lenient than Europe.
Don't you think it's similar to, with him just spouting this, hey, get behind this. I haven't really, I don't have an opinion or a value on it because anyway, I'm a birthing person. You're allowed to say woman these days. It's like I saw during COVID, the new diseased until proven healthy. I call it COVID woke. It's like cancel culture's guilty till proven innocent. Let's just, let's chant the slogan and be part of that crowd that is on the righteous side without really just investigating it is self-righteous.
It's a bunch of people with pitchforks and torches.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm just here to fit in. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.